Colin and Edith have made the journey from weekend to weekdays. Getting you through the afternoon every weekday from 1 o'clock on BBC Radio 1.
Amberley House. God, it's wonderful, isn't it? The entire nation united by a horse. You know, there were millions of people following that race. Back at home, not here, obviously. That would have been chaos and frankly just dangerous. But you were united nonetheless. And safe.
Who's that? Steve's brother.
Is there someone else?
Yes.
You slept with her?
Come and get it.
You're very vulnerable.
Yeah, right.
I'm just telling you to be careful.
No, you're not. You're trying to scare me.
Circus must be back in town.
Looks like it.
You're too desperate to appear normal, and every time you look at me, I remind you of you.
Love makes you see things differently. Every time you look at me, next Wednesday at 9 on BBC Two.
And that's just about it for BBC Two for this evening. Stay with us though, the Learning Zone is coming along in about 15 minutes.
Hello and a very warm welcome to BBC Learning Zone through the night on BBC Two. And taking us through until 6 today, we've got programmes for schools. So we're going to knuckle down to a bit of revision today with the help of Bite Size. We're diving straight in now with Key Stage 3 Science 1, covering biology and chemistry. And then it's GCSE Science at 4, and again it's biology, concentrating on cells, humans, plants and living things in their environment.
Hi, I'm Katie Natman and welcome to the Key Stage 3 Bite-Size Revision Series and Science. I'm here to help you get through all that revision material, sort out those tricky problems and give you loads of practice with test questions. In this series there are a number of science revision programmes with units covering most of the main areas that you need to revise for the tests coming up. So if you want some help with science revision, keep watching. The programmes have been designed in bite-sized chunks, and at the start of each unit you will see this main menu, so you can keep track of where you are in the programme. These are the subject areas we're going to look at in this programme. Biology is split into 6 units, which will look at the key revision points you need to know in order to answer biology questions, followed by 2 of the chemistry units. The survival guide to the test will show you how to revise and prepare for those all-important test papers. Each unit has a start time, so you can work your way through the programme, or you can fast forward to view the one you need the most help with. By using the on-screen timer, you can keep track of where you are in the programme. There's also a Key Stage 3 bite-size book that goes with these programmes, and our own unique website which has lots of practice questions. Whenever there are direct links with the book or with the website, you will see these icons on the screen. Within each unit in this programme, we have also highlighted the crucial facts. So you'll know that these points are the most important things to remember. You might like to jot some of them down, so why not have a pen and paper handy? And for answering typical test questions, we've added this. So you can choose to stop the tape and have a think and maybe even make some notes. Or you can just carry straight on. It's your choice. If you work your way through these programmes, then they're going to help a lot with your knowledge and boost your confidence. So let's get going. The 2 science papers you'll be taking are both 1 hour long and are taken on the same day. The science tests cover all of your work from Year 7, so it's a good idea to go over all your notes made 1 and 2 years ago, as well as your most recent notes. These programmes are designed to support students working towards levels 4 to 6. But where on earth do you start when you've got this lot in front of you? Revising is a skill that you need to learn, and if you start now, it'll make revising for those other exams ahead of you a whole lot easier. So, with this lot, the first tip is to get organised.
I try and balance my social life with my revision, so I usually set a timetable so that I have enough time to revise but also to relax.
Okay, there's a lot of material to revise for Key Stage 3. Try to make your revision active. Don't just sit and read the book. Try to do something as well. So draw diagrams, mind maps. How about writing some questions where you can challenge your friends as to which you think is best? Whatever you do, make it active.
Just keep reading through things and jotting down notes, and make sure you do it in a nice quiet atmosphere so you're absorbing what you're reading.
Some helpful tips there. So, let's take a look at some key points about revising. Make a revision plan for all your test subjects at the same time. Make sure you start your revision at least 2 months before you take your tests if you possibly can. Revise in bite-sized chunks. 15 to 20 minutes is a good length. Don't just read your books, make notes and then try and test yourself. And finally, remember to keep calm and try to get a good night's sleep before the test day. The most important thing is preparation, and these revision programs will help you do just that. In this unit, we're going to look at life processes and animal and plant cells, and the final section will look at more specialised cells. Let's start with the 7 life processes. There are 7 life processes that keep me alive. The most obvious ones are respiration, movement, and eating. That's nutrition. Those 3 are the most obvious, but let's just run through the whole list as a reminder. You might like to jot them down as we go through. Movement, where muscles contract and parts of the body move. Reproduction, all living things need to produce young. Sensitivity, all living things can detect changes and can respond to most of these in order to survive. Growth, organisms that are born small need to grow into adult size, particularly when an individual is young. Respiration is a process by which energy in foods is released in cells. Excretion, waste products produced by the body need to be removed. And finally, nutrition. Food is needed for new body structures, energy, growth and repair. So that was all 7 life processes, and there's an easy way of remembering them.
The way I remember the 7 characteristics of life is Mrs. Wren, because it stands for movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion and nutrition.
Remember, all 7 of these life processes also apply to plants, including moving and responding. Let's take a closer look.
This is a radish. Doesn't seem to be able to do or respond to anything.
But look at this. This radish has been reacting to the stimulus of light. In growing, it weaved towards that stimulus over 4 days. Many plants respond like this, but it happens so slowly you don't notice.
So remember, plants also have movement. For example, plants will move towards light, and sensitivity. Plants will detect changes and respond to them. Why is a motor car not a living thing? It moves, it needs food, it excretes, and it could be sensitive to changes. So is it living? Good one. Why not have a think? So, why is a motor car not a living thing? As you probably picked up, a car is not a living thing because it doesn't fulfill all the 7 life processes. It doesn't respire, grow, or reproduce. The marks rewarded are written on the paper, and for this answer, 1 mark is given. All living things are made up of cells. They're the building blocks of life. And we ourselves are made up of around 100 billion of them.
Some cells, like the ones in this red onion, for example, can be seen under an ordinary microscope. To find the right layer, you need to cut a few centimetres into the onion. And if you look at one of these inner layers on about 50 times magnification, you can clearly see the cells.
But can we see any of our own cells? Now, I must do this right. Cotton buds. On this cotton bud, I've got some of my cheek cells. I'm going to use some of this blue stain because it helps show up the cells.
put on the cover slip. There. And at 1,000 times magnification, you can see the individual cells. Most cells are smaller than these. The average cell is 1/30th of a millimetre, which means that if this brick is the size of one cell, then this many, 30, can fit into this space.
So a diagram of an animal cell will look like this, and you need to label the cell membrane, which controls the movement of substances into and out of the cell. A jelly-like substance called the cytoplasm is where all the cell's activities are carried out, and the nucleus is the control centre of the cell. Plant cells also have these three structures, but they have others as well.
Okay, now we've got the cell here magnified over 13,000 times, and here we can see that this cell is slightly different from an animal cell in that it's got this cell wall on the outside. All the way around the cell, we've got the cell wall.
Now, apart from a plant cell's outer wall, the algae cell is actually very similar to all cells. There's the protective membrane around the cell, the nucleus, which acts like the nerve centre controlling everything that goes on in the cell, and the cytoplasm, where chemicals and food are made.
In common with an animal cell, the plant cell also has a nucleus, cytoplasm, and a cell membrane. In addition to these three, the plant cell has a cell wall made up of cellulose, which gives it shape and structure and provides the fibre in our diet. And inside the plant cell is a large vacuole full of sap. Green plant cells in the leaves will also contain chloroplasts. Chloroplasts hold the green pigment used to absorb light for photosynthesis.
Pick a topic, read it through, make sure you understand it. Take cells, for example. Make sure you know the difference between plant and animal cells. Make sure you know the structure of a cell.
The differences between animal and plant cells are that they both have cell membranes, but only plant cells have cell walls and chloroplasts for photosynthesis.
So for plant and animal cells, you need to know that all plant and animal cells have three things in common: a cell membrane, a nucleus, and cytoplasm. But plant cells also have three structures that animal cells don't have: a cell wall, a vacuole, and chloroplasts. For your test, you'll need to be sure of the structures of both plant and animal cells, and which parts only appear in plant cells. Don't make the mistake of labelling the cell membrane as the cell wall. Remember, only plant cells have a cell wall. Animal cells never have a cell wall. Why not stop the tape and practice drawing the cells and labelling the key structures? These are exactly the sort of questions you'll be asked in a test paper. Many cells, like these nerve cells, are highly specialised to do a particular job. We say they are adapted to their function. These plant guard cells have a different shape, but will still have all the cell structures. The different shape of each cell allows it to fulfil its specialised role. These are plant root cells. And these are human muscle cells. So, to summarise specialised cells, we say they are adapted to their function. And you need to know what the words function and adapted mean. Function is what the cell does, its job. Adapted is how the cell is suited to its job. So, that's it for life processes and cell activity. If you're not sure about any of it, particularly those crucial differences between animals and plant cells, you could rewind to the beginning of this unit and check through the key points again. Don't forget there's more info and test questions to practice on our website and also in the accompanying Key Stage 3 bite-sized revision book. You may want to take a break now, or you can move on to the next unit. It's your choice. Humans as organisms is split over the next 2 programme units. The first unit is in 4 sections, so let's kick off with nutrition and the digestive system. We humans need 5 different food types, and they're all essential for healthy life. And in this country, they're relatively easy for us to get hold of. But what if you have to take everything with you for several months? Then it requires some careful thought. In this next clip, make a note of all the different food types that are mentioned.
So, we've all got to eat. But what if you're at sea? You only get to eat what you've remembered to bring. That's true of the people I've come to meet. They're about to start off on a yacht race around the world, and I have brought them some supplies.
The crew are certainly going to need to eat healthily, and they've had to think carefully about the food they're taking on the trip.
The nutrients our body need could be put into groups. Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and of course vitamins and minerals. Carbohydrates provide readily available energy, and we need a lot of carbohydrates. We use up a lot of energy sailing, so we have to eat twice as much as we do on shore.
But the trouble is, the food rich in carbohydrates that I've brought the crew are either too heavy, too bulky, or would go stale. Almost all the crew's food is freeze-dried, from fruit and yoghurt to their omelettes, and even this stroganoff. The meat in this provides a source for another nutrient, protein, which is vital for our cells to grow and to help build new cells. The crew are going to be sailing close to the Antarctic, and there the cold will mean they'll be relying on their body fat to keep warm. Fats are found in foods like biscuits and butter. Fats are a good source of energy, releasing energy more slowly than carbohydrates.
Well, it's not bad. Can you get everything you need for a healthy diet from this freeze-dried food?
Not quite. We need a lot of different vitamins and minerals. They do different jobs in the body. They're usually in a balanced diet, but when food is freeze-dried, it's destroyed.
Fresh fruit and vegetables are the best source of vitamins and minerals, but what I've brought would perish and is still too heavy.
So we have to have all our vitamins in a tablet form like this.
But I'd rather eat fresh food any day.
But we're prepared to do this to win the race.
So, have a go at writing the different food types down. You should have come up with 5 different food types: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. The other 2 things that you need for a healthy diet are fibre and water. Not technically food, but still essential for a balanced diet. And together with the 5 different food types, they make up the 7 components of a balanced diet. For your test, you should know the 7 components of food and what we use them for. Carbohydrates are used for readily available energy. Proteins for growth and repair. Fats are a supply of stored energy and insulation. Vitamins and minerals we need in tiny quantities for cell chemistry, and minerals for healthy blood, bones and teeth. Fibre, roughage, is the indigestible part of food, but aids digestion and helps prevent bowel cancer. And last, but by no means least, water, which is essential for life, and we need lots of it to replace all that is lost through excretion and respiration. But to turn this list into soluble substances that the body can use, the process of digestion needs to get to work.
She might not realise it, but her investigations have just started. She's taking the first steps in breaking down of her food. The mouth is like a chopping board. Well, it is. The teeth chop up the food and grind it to a pulp. It's a very physical process. chewing also increases the surface area of the food, which helps the first chemical processes of digestion. And that's where saliva comes in. Wonderful stuff, saliva. Food's got to be broken down chemically so that the large molecules of food can be changed into molecules small enough to be absorbed by the body. Saliva contains an enzyme which starts breaking down the starch in the bread and chips into sugars the body can actually use. There's still more breaking down, more digesting to do. Once the food reaches the stomach, glands in the stomach lining secretes a liquid called the gastric juice, which helps break down protein. Everything's mixed together and churned up by the muscles in the stomach wall. A lot of the carbohydrates and some of the protein have been broken down, but hardly any of the fat from the food's been digested yet.
Couldn't eat another thing.
So, now the food's in my stomach, the proteins and carbohydrates are breaking down. But what's next?
Well, it all moves on to the small intestines.
Ah, the duodenum. What happens there?
This is where the fats in the burger are broken down. Bile, which is made in the liver, together with enzyme, this time from the pancreas, break down the fats. These enzymes from the pancreas complete the digestion of the rest of the carbohydrates and the proteins too.
So, in the duodenum, fats are dispersed into tiny droplets. And carbohydrates and proteins are digested here too.
All the nutrients from your digested foods passes through the walls of the ileum to get into your bloodstream. This means at last the body can actually make use of the nutrients. By the end of the small intestines, nearly all the nutrients from the food have been absorbed into the blood system.
So, by the time the foods pass through the ileum, they're broken down enough for the nutrients to be absorbed into the blood.
And it's on to the last stage of digestion.
The large intestine. But what's actually left by now?
All that's left is a little water and undigested food. Fibre, for instance, which helps to keep the feces moist. So there's not much of Femi's burger left. A little bit of water which has been absorbed through the walls of the large intestines. The remaining material, the feces, becomes a little bit more solid. And that passes out of the body through the anus.
So, there you have it, the complete digestive process of a hamburger, described by Rusty the chef. Perhaps I'll eat it later. You need to remember that the point of digestion is to break down our food into simpler substances that the body is then able to use. So the question is, what are the different ways in which food is broken down? Well, there's certainly more than one. Stop the tape if you want to work out your answer. Your answer should include 2 points, that food is broken down both mechanically and chemically, and that the saliva in the mouth and gastric juices in the stomach produce enzymes that chemically help break down the food into smaller molecules. Remember, digestion is the process where complicated food substances are broken down into simpler, soluble foods which can be used by the body. That's it for nutrition and digestion. But if you weren't sure of any of the facts, then why not rewind to the beginning of this section and look through it again? Or you can go straight on. Our skeletal system consists of bones and other soft tissues that hold us together. Without a skeleton, we would be very floppy indeed. But support is only one of its 3 functions. It also protects vital organs such as the brain, heart, and lungs. And its 3rd function is for movement. The skeleton has different types of joints: the vertebra, ball and socket joints, and hinge joints. So let's check through the key points you need to remember about joints. Joints are points in the skeleton where two or more bones meet, and there are three types of joints you should know about. The hinge joints at the knee and elbow, ball and socket joints at the hip and shoulder, and partly movable joints between the breastplate and the ribs and between the vertebrae. But how do joints help us to move, or do anything for that matter? Pick up a drink, that's my hinge joint. And to jump off this bench, or jog on the spot, I'm using all the different joints. But just how do they work?
Looking inside a running knee joint, the muscles that cause movement are attached to bones. They're called skeletal muscles. So it's skeletal muscles that move your body, and they work in pairs.
Now you can feel two of these working together when you bend and straighten your arm.
You can see it with this model. To bend your arm, the biceps contracts. It gets shorter. You can see it bulge and harden. The triceps relaxes. As a result, the biceps pulls the bones together and the arm bends. To straighten your arm, the opposite happens. The triceps contracts and the biceps relaxes. This pulls the bones straight. Muscles can only contract and pull bones, never push them.
So now some facts about movement you really need to know. Muscles can only contract. They shorten and then relax, go back to their original length. Muscles usually work in pairs, having an opposite effect on each other. They are described as antagonistic muscles. Respiration and breathing are two processes that can be confusing. So let's sort out what we mean by those terms. For a start, they are very different. Let's look at respiration first. To continue cycling, let alone do anything else here, I need energy. And where do I get my energy from? I need a supply of oxygen to release the energy from the food I have eaten. And as a result of a series of chemical reactions, complex molecules are broken down into simpler ones. And in the process, energy is released. Now that is